Hi, y'all.
Hello.
Hi.
I am caffeinated, hydrated, no longer hangry. We're doing this.
All right. Sounds like you're ready.
I feel ready. Maybe we'll see what happens.
I believe that you look extremely ready to me.
Thank you.
You look ready. You sound ready. You're glowing. Let's do this.
Yes.
Hello.
I was just slandering Nina in my DMs. That's probably why I'm glowing.
That'll do it.
Give you that extra special glow.
How was y'all weeks?
It was all right. It was okay. That's it. Oh, I went movie hopping for the first time yesterday.
What did you think?
I went and saw, not hopping for the first time, but the first time in 2 years, because I used to go all the time regularly. I went and saw Bad Guys, the cartoon.
Okay.
And I saw Secrets of Dumbledore again. And then I went home and watched Spider-Man 3 again. So I saw 3 movies in one day.
Okay.
And I loved it. And I was the only one in, like, for a minute, I was the only one in the theaters. Maybe about 5 or 6 people, but I think I was definitely the only one masked up. Because I don't trust folks. So
I went to the movie once for like a special screening. I've only been once since like 2020. To like inside of a theater, but I saw Spider-Man at the drive-in, and I'm hoping to go see Doctor Strange at the drive-in.
Yeah, I would be happy to accompany you.
that's why I rewatched Spider-Man so I can go see Doctor Strange. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Multiverse of Madness. It looks exciting. Look at us being a Disney Plus commercial, like they did with Jungle Cruise.
We're not watching Jungle Cruise though.
We're not. Well, we have much to discuss. Are y'all ready to get into the recap of the week?
So ready.
Let's do it. Okay. Supermodel speedster slays and the new love triangle with that guy were the focal points of the week. Because Caroline couldn't mind her business, she ended up in her own trunk at the edge of Harmony's murder cliff. After Diane convinced Alexis to run Smokes' Nina story and kick Harmony out of her house, Alexis finds Harmony and learns that she killed both Neil and Neil's brother, who both, in my opinion, had it coming. After murder attempts, Harmony runs into the darkness. At the Metro Court Gardens, Finn is mad at Lucy for talking with Aiden about ghosts, and Liz contemplates whether it's really Franco's ghost doing all the strange things in her life. The Deception crew meets up for drinks and celebrates their riches. The paparazzi is tipped off that Sasha is there, and when they try to take photos of her, she goes to a not-so-private corner to pop pills, where the pap gets it on film. She flips out on him. Gladys steals a memory card from his camera, and they all leave. When the paparazzi realizes that said memory card is gone, we get a car chase that ends with Sasha's car colliding with Harmony. Michael and Sonny deepen the already deep rift between them. Michael tells Sonny he doesn't want to see him, and that he's thought about changing his last name again to distance himself from Sonny. Sonny tells Michael that if he ever wants to make it up to him, he has to beg. Real father of the year material right there, but whatever. As they lay it on even thicker, Milo talks about their love for Harmony and their hate for Nina. So we know where that's going. Carly, Alexis, Harmony, Milo, Brasha, and Sante end up at the hospital with Harmony critical and on her way to surgery. Josh shows up for Carly, and Sasha has to break the news to Willow that she hit her mom with her car, while Brando threatens Smoltz, and Gladys figures out there must be something extremely shady on that memory card she still has. As the love triangle with that guy, aka Rory, heats up, we see the return of jealous Spencer. His so-called plan is going just as well as we expected it to be going. And he shows up to the gallery, his and Trina's gallery, to see Rory and Trina talking about art. Trina argues with Spencer, and when Esme shows up, she tells Spencer that she is safe from Sunny, per Laura, the mayor. And she and Spencer both get dragged by Trina. I saw people say that Spencer called it stray, and I disagree. Trina took aim, and there was nothing stray about it. Trina sees Spencer and Esme talking about her, and because she doesn't know Spencer believes in her, it's pretty heartbreaking for Trina and for us. Also during the week, Nina admits to Sasha that she wants to be with Sunny, and Nina tells Brando she's worried about Sasha. Curtis and Hat Daddy clash over Curtis pulling his records. Curtis and Portia discuss ethics and honesty, and we get our first real peek of Portia looking uncomfortable when she talks about Trina with Curtis. Liz moved into the Metro Court instead of staying with Finn. Leo has his adoption ceremony. He's such a cutie. And Chase and BLQ have 2 missed kisses because Monica's house is so busy. And there is definite trouble in the Neva marriage, which I love. And that is what I got for the week. What did y'all think? What did you think about the week, and what were your favorite moments?
Oh, okay, I'll go. I thought the week was pretty good. I enjoyed it. There are of course things that I didn't enjoy, but overall there was something that was keeping my attention that was highly entertaining in every episode. And I think, there were definitely like, when I found myself thinking about what works, there were like so many things to explore. And as far as like what didn't work, it's kind of like the same things that don't. So there was some consistency there was balance. My favorite moment was actually really hard because there was like so many of my faves this week. There was, harmonying, what a queen. And so many great moments in the gallery, and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, throughout the episode. I'm gonna say my ultimate favorite moment was Trina reading Esme and Spencer. I mean, it was so satisfying. And it was our first time seeing Tabiana as Trina with Avery as Esme. And it did not disappoint. Some of I loved Trina naming Spencer, keeping her on the hook. Because even though she doesn't know like the whole story, there is a lot of truth to that too. Like it's part of like where he's fucking up with his plan, is that he, for whatever reason, part of his plan is Trina despising him, right? Like, I guess to keep him. I think there is a way in which that actually does make sense, because he's clearly unable to like be cool around her and not act like he's in love with her. But like, he also can't bear for her to actually hate him. So it felt really good also because there is a way in which he's been keeping her on the hook this whole time, right? Where he, when Esme re-entered his life, or was shown to us for the first time in the fall, where he was kind of playing both sides, right? He was with Esme, but building this emotional bond with Trina. So that felt really satisfying and very necessary, calling out his mixed signals. But when Esme came in and she, like, Trina called her a tragic waste of cement, I mean, it was spectacular. Needy, entitled psychopath who hurts everyone around them and wonders where they went. Ouch. And then, of course, calling Spencer that idiot. And then both like the expressions on people's faces were great. Like the looks that Esme and Trina were throwing at each other, spectacular. And probably my favorite facial expression and my favorite like Spencer moment was the look on his face when Trina called him that idiot. Like he was really like, you could just see him trying to suppress like his admiration, his love for her. He was like, I am your idiot. So that was one of actually very many great moments this week.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well pack. I mean, that was it. Like that was my favorite moment. And I guess like what I will say is just like it mattered a lot to me because last week I was talking about how Trina wasn't showing up in the ways that like I love Trina to be, right? Like that I needed for Trina to be showing up. So I appreciated that. I appreciated her naming like her like that Spencer was like third on the list of the things that matter to her. Like that was important. And so just like having her be the Trina that we know and love, she is so much more and so much more important than just Sprina. And because I'm a Trina fan, like all of that was really important. So yes, the reading, I loved all of it. Everything you said, Sandra, double click, double tap. But just in general, the return of like Trina standing up for herself and like telling it how it is was really important. So that was my favorite.
Ooh, I had lots of scenes that were my favorite. The Trina one, Trina and Esme one being definitely super, super important. I liked a lot of scenes that happened as well this week that I, immediately tweeted about. Definitely the Brando and Schmaltz scene, hilarious. Brando being the heavy was actually pretty great. I thought, I was like, that's a little hot. Even though I was like, oh my goodness, Dante, some competition. But I also loved when Dante called Sonny a tricky son of a bitch. That was hot. That was great. So that was nice. I loved Ava and at the manicurist. Her manicurist, definitely props because her nail polish was on point. Gladys being Gladys, loved her. I loved Leo's interaction with Chase. I love the whole scene with Harmony and just breaking down and just going crazy. There's a lot for me this week that was really good. Definitely better than the previous weeks. I almost felt like, is this the sweep before May actually happens? Or is there even more that we can actually be excited about? Because I wouldn't be mad if this was the sweep. So there was lots of things that I liked. But it was hard for me to pick favorite performance. Well, actually, no, it wasn't hard because it's always going to be with teens. But I think definitely want to give it up to Tabiana this week and Avery Pohl. The scene was just amazing and I loved it. And I loved it for Tabiana because she really kind of showed her strengths in her interaction with Spencer and Esme. So that was great for her. I also want to give it up to the actress that plays Sasha, and I didn't write her name down, but
Sophia Matson.
Sophia Matson. Again, she is really good at some really emotional, drama-filled scenes. And this week was another one for her. She was just going up and down and her worry over Brando, her angst at being stalked by the paparazzi, and now understanding that she caused the accident to Willow's mom and all that means. And she was just amazing. She was totally on point and just loved her this week. So I would say, yeah, Sophia and Tabiana get my top marks, but definitely great ensemble work between the teen scene and everybody involved in the Sasha Harmony accident.
Yeah.
I thought this was great this storyline brought some great ensemble acting, and really appreciated that a lot.
Mhm. I think that, both of those are like, both Tabiana and Sophia have
Mhm.
just been phenomenal in really different ways.
Mhm.
Tabiana, I don't know if people really understand, and I think that a lot of people do, but people really understand how hard of a role Trina was to step into.
Mhm.
This was something that Sydney built, and Sydney was beloved. And like, if you see Sydney on social media now, she'll post about something, and like a flood of Sabrina fans will be like, "Get it, girl, get it, niece," because we do still love her. And so to see her still go hard for the character of Trina and uplift Tabiana, I think is such a model for like how fans should behave. Like, Sydney is doing her thing. She's enjoying her life. She's hopefully getting great, amazing grades. To your point in the video, Tanya, we want you to have straight A report cards with your fun nights, right? But Tabiana stepped into this role, and it just was so seamless. And that really speaks to both what Sydney built and how talented Tabiana is. Um, and I just wanted to like shout that out, like the fact that I think Sydney is like really putting the like is really being the model as to how fans should behave with this like transition in this recast, and Tabiana is making it so easy because she's so amazing.
Yeah.
There's no, there's no you gotta hype her up. That's not true. All of the hype is deserved. Every piece of like accolades, every piece of praise that she receives is deserved, and it shows up in all of her scenes. And so while they portray Trina differently, it has been such a seamless transition. And I was devastated when Sydney left. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But to like be blessed with these like two young, talented, gracious Black girls on our screen, like I just really feel lucky to be living in the Trina era. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're both so talented, and Tabiana is absolutely killing it.
Here. Yes. Living in a Trina era. What a time to be alive. What a time to be a GH fan. Really.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I really love that those were your performers of the week, Tanya, because those are really like what was working for me on the show. And in general, like I really thought the young adults are just killing it. I know we say that all the time, but like they get better and better every week. I become more and more impressed with them. The Rorina Sprina triangle coming into formation this week, and we'll talk more about that later as we talk about love triangles in the deep dive. But that whole interaction around art being the foundation for this triangle was perfection. Like, there were so many callbacks in those scenes, like just the gallery as a setting, Trina bringing out the pepper spray for Rory. I was like, oh, scandalous. Oh, you're really like on the breathing down the Sprina fans' necks here. And of course, like art being Sprina's shared passion. So Spencer like rolling in and being like, oh, you're talking about art? Well, that's contrast. Oh, what about Chiaroscuro? I was just like, this is like all my favorite ways of Spencer being kind of like snobby and ridiculous, and it being the way that he's showing his jealousy was so good. And of course, like Rory calling out Spencer's privilege. Like, oh, it's the mayor's grandson. I was like, okay, Rory, I see you. I see you being sassy. I see you shading Spencer, and I love it. He needs it. I also thought the use of Esme was good this week. Like, even though I'm very disappointed that she can now leave Windermere, what a great Esme era that was. When she just was stuck at Windermere, it was wonderful. Because the ick stuff is like gross. It's super gross, but it's also strangely satisfying, like popping a pimple. It's gross, but you're like, satisfying. Y'all don't agree. That's fine. I think it's because I just dislike this Nikolas so much that seeing him be so ridiculous and foolish and gross is just like, that's right. You're a pimple. It's time for you to be popped. And it was fun watching Laura, Spencer, and Trina all in their own ways get their digs in at Esme. Like when Spencer was like, oh, don't you worry, very soon you and Trina will never have to see each other again. I was like, I see you. I see you being a little smart. You can be a little smart sometimes. Good job. And Esme's just been getting away with so much. She's been getting away with so much. Like, we need a little balance this week. We needed to see her squirm a little bit and get a little uncomfortable. But yeah, everyone's just so talented and just overflowing with chemistry all around on that teen scene. Like, I just continue every week to be like, how are you all so good together? But again, I really just have to appreciate how Tabiana's Trina was just the centerpiece of the young adult scenes, and that's part of why they worked so well. Like, Tabiana was the sun and everyone was revolving around her. And we really got to see see her different relationships with Rory, with Spencer, with Esme, have their own time to like really be explored. And every time I watch her, I just like love her more and more. I continue to be just like delighted, impressed. And when she's on screen, I feel myself leaning in, like, what's going to happen next? And like, similar to Spencer, the world around me just drops away. And I'm like, Trina's on screen. And there's so many things that are different about Sydney and Tabiana. And I appreciate, rather than going to a place of comparison, it just brings me actually to a place of appreciation for both of them and how different they are, but how there's so many threads of Trina that remain true. And what an abundance of talent. It's like, if I ever am in a scarcity mindset, I'm gonna think about Trina and just think about like the abundance of talent on our screen that we get to enjoy, whether we're going back and watching throwback scenes or we're watching these new beats unfold that we've never seen Trina play before. And I know I'm going on, but I also love the Sasha and Harmony as the centerpieces of the Wiley adult storyline, which kind of like came out of left field. Like, this is a storyline about grandparents' visitation. That's not very exciting. You know, we've talked about this on end, but we have these two characters that are relatively ancillary, so it would seem, to the story, really bringing the drama and raising the stakes. Like, what this storyline really needed was a paparazzi car chase. So also like shout out to our paparazzi. He was awful. He was doing everything he needed to do. He was
no shout out. I hate him.
A shout out to
the actor, because he really pulled it off, kind of like Schmaltz.
Yes.
He's worse than Schmaltz. My God, he is worse than Schmaltz.
He is worse, yeah, but I mean, he pulled off the annoying character who we all want to add to the Harmony hit list.
And maybe it might save Schmaltz in the public opinion, because I thought I couldn't hate anyone more, but look, then his paparazzi friend showed up. I also really loved when he called Schmaltz and called him Schmaltzy. It was very funny.
Like, of course these two would be friends.
Of course.
Right. Maybe the Adam guy and the paparazzi guy.
I could see there being a vast conspiracy involving all of them, for sure. I hope they bring that. But yeah, I appreciated like the paparazzi chase. I appreciated that this storyline really needed like Harmony trying to like set up Carly to look like she drove off a cliff and possibly brain Alexis with a rock. Like, they were bringing so much to the table. And like, literally every day I was like, I can't wait to see what these crazy asses get up to. And so they're just really the bright spots in an otherwise dull storyline. And same with the Brando First Amendment speech. I gotta clip that, because anytime someone rolls into my mentions talking about free speech, I'm just gonna drop a clip of Brando being like, do I look like the government to you? Do I look like the government to you?
Yeah. I'm gonna go back and clip that. Because I mean, it was so perfect. He's like, I fought in the military. I fought for your right. And you're still hella wrong. And if you come for my wife, it was brilliant.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do what is working, because for me it's the love triangle, and we're gonna deep dive into Nikolas, Emily, and Zander and compare it. So I'm not gonna do that, but I will add on some praise for Sophia as Sasha.
Mhm.
You know, like, I have joked and called her Filipina before, but it's really because I actually just don't think that they have given Sophia enough. She is so talented, and I think that it's easy to forget how talented she is because her storyline has been so disjointed. Like, if you remember, she kind of came in as like a scammer, pretending to be Nina's daughter. So that should have actually made her pretty unlikable. But not only was she likable, but she pulled out likable stuff from Michael. I know that other people don't think this, but I think that Sasha was Michael's best relationship, because she actually made him like what he could be, kind of like a more fun, like little rich boy. Like, that is who Michael should be. Like, I'm rich on both sides. I'm throwing around my money. I'm taking girls on vacation. Like, that's actually who Michael should be, but they just don't allow him to be. And Sasha brought that out of him. And I think it was like an overestimation of like couplings that like move people around. But I do like Sasha and Brando together. I just don't like anything they've had to do. Both of those actors do understated so well. So like, we're praising Brando's performance with Schmaltz because like it wasn't over the top. It wasn't like screaming. It wasn't like throwing him against the wall. But Schmaltz was more scared of Brando with that whispering than he was if Brando would have thrown him against the wall. Because this is like, I'm measured and I'll come for your ass later. And Johnny Wachter like really delivered that. And I was like, I forgot, because we don't get to see them that often, how good these two are together. And I really wish that like we were able to get more of them. Sasha has basically been like tragedy after tragedy. Like, her whole arc has felt like a redemption arc. And I'm like, can we see her be happy? Like, can we see like something good for them? Can we see them like, these are two, this like that age range and that kind of coupling is actually exactly what the canvas needs. Like, Brasha is what the canvas needs, but they're so tragic every time we see them. And I just feel like Johnny and Sophia have really shown that they can deliver powerhouse performances that are both like on the mark and understated when necessary. And they also show that they don't like overwhelm the screen. Like, they don't take away from their scene partners. Both of those actors are really good scene partners, which is why they work so well together. They bring like balance to screens. And I actually didn't even like what Brando did all week. When he was talking to Sonny about Michael, I actually didn't like that at all. I'll talk about Sonny a little bit, but I didn't like that at all. But I like Brando. And so anyway, I just want to like give them some praise. Tanya, what's working for you?
Well, yeah, you guys hit it all. And I guess I introduced the topic, but you guys hit all the points that I was thinking of making. Even the part about Brando, which I guess we can go straight into what didn't work, because that was the thing that didn't work with me. The way they're kind of trying, well, Brando's conversation about Michael and didn't work for me, but the whole, and I am seeing it and kind of social media talking points. I mean, I know a lot of people have feelings about Michael, how like they don't like him as a character right now, and that's understandable. But to point out that his beef with Sunny is immature or childish, I don't think that's the case. I think Michael has every right to be upset with Sunny and to have a problem with who he is as a person, because we all might forgive Sunny for being, a gangster with a heart, but that heart was because he cared about his family. He wanted to protect his family. And when he turned tail and abandoned them over this little, crazy woman, Nina.
I love both our faces like,
I was like, wait a minute, they're all white, Tanya, so stop it. Nina, when he turns his back on his family over Nina, then that's when he loses his heart, right? And so for Michael to be upset is totally understandable. And I don't know why this framing of him being immature or childish. I mean, yes, he grew up with money, but that doesn't mean he can't recognize bad. It's that he is not good. And he's not the type of person, even if, even if it wasn't a soap opera world, definitely if it wasn't soap opera world, if my family was involved in gangster activities, I kind of might want to distance myself from that too. And I don't know why people are acting all shocked and mad at him. Why? Because Sunny's kind of the star of the show, I suppose, but that doesn't make him a good guy. And he's done some bad things. And we're seeing now that Dante is investigating the latest bad thing that he's doing. And so I don't know why Sunny gets to be all hypocritical and be and offended that Michael has the backbone to be able to say, I don't want you in my life, and I don't think you should be around Wiley, because he shouldn't. So that whole framing of Michael being the wrong person or the mean person is what's not working with me. That's one of the things that's not working with me. Actually, I wrote several bullet points about it, which I covered. Maxie and Austin, not working. I love
Awful.
Roger so much, and I'm so mad that he's in this pairing. I want them to give him a story. Maybe now that we know that Britt is having some issues with Selena, maybe he can help her through that. Anything. But this Maxie drama, I kind of feel like they're trying to find a way for him to get out of it, because he seems to be a little bit out of touch with Maxie, what Maxie wants, having to work all the time and then suggesting that they go and get pizza and wings when she really wanted to do the taste testing. So we're seeing a little bit of differences of opinion on things. And so hopefully they're recognizing that maybe they're not a good match. But yeah, I just don't like this direction that they have him in. And I hope that they do better for Roger, because he deserves a great story, and this isn't it. And I'm
Roger's
so
amazing.
mad. Yeah. So
what do you think, Tanya, though, about BLQ seeming to like really still have beef with him? Do you think that's part of, like, 'cause she was like trying to make something about money?
Yeah. Maybe that's another direction. I don't know, but BLQ has gotten on my nerves around Austin for a while, so I just like I don't get it. So I'm like, okay, if she's trying to push him away from Maxie, then so be it, because I don't like him with Maxie. So I'm just like, and the third thing, which I've said over and over again, Curtis and Dad's story, he's gone. Let him be gone. Curtis don't need to talk about him anymore. Sunny don't need to talk about him anymore. Just let him be gone. And shout out to the clarinet that made a actual appearance this time. I don't know, maybe TJ's gonna have a new hobby. I don't know, but I used to play clarinet, so I love seeing it there. But Curtis is gone. Let him stay gone. Thank you.
Shout out to the clarinet.
The MVP of the storyline, the clarinet.
Oh my God. Woo. Well, Tanya, I think he's coming back.
Why you had to give me this bad news? Now I have to go through the week.
Now I'm like that one song, like, don't nobody give me bad news. I'm so sorry, but I think
I will say I've been waiting eagerly all week for your Hat Daddy commentary. I'm just like, I wonder what Tanya's gonna say about Hat Daddy this weekend. You really delivered. You really delivered.
You never disappoint with the Hat Daddy. You know,
That's coming back. Why?
Yeah.
Why? You make me want to cry now. I'm sorry. Okay.
No.
I would like to continue slandering Sunny. Because
Please.
for me, that is what's not working. And it actually, Sunny as a character is actually not working. And I think that it like speaks to a bunch of things that are not working, which is like forcing storyline, which is like disconnecting people from like relationships. I was like saying to Sandra earlier this week, if there was like only one thing I could change about GH, it would actually be reinvesting characters in relationships. Because storylines become richer when you do that. So like hearing Sasha be like, well, that was my friend. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like how much better would some of these storylines be if we actually saw them like play out in a way that showed relationships instead of talking about relationships. But Sunny, Sunny came about at a time when people were like really excited about the mob. So it was like The Sopranos, it was all of that. And so it still felt like almost the mob took over a lot, but the hospital was still present. I think that like the return of like Robin and Patrick and like Scrubs like actually kept the hospital still a focal point, despite the mob also being a focal point. I also think that like Jason is no matter how I feel about that man, Jason grounded Sunny.
Mm-hmm.
So like people talk a lot about like, oh, who's gonna be the new Jason? And they were like, oh, Brando this week. Being an enforcer is not actually what being the new Jason is, because Jason would never have like Jason would have never excused Sunny's behavior the way Brando does.
And Jason wouldn't have slandered Michael either.
No, definitely not that.
Right.
Like he would have also been like asked him real questions about Nina, because like before Jason, went to unite with his real love, the Tunnel, he like told Sunny, the Tunnel forever, hopefully. He went and told Sunny, like, you should talk to Carly about this shit with Nina, right? Like Jason has always been that balance for Sunny, and not having it has really hurt him as a character. And to your point, Tanya, like he has done so many unlikable things. I actually like going back when I was like rewatching like the Zander Emily stuff. I ended up like in the hotel fire stuff. And I was like, how like you remember things. And so I was like, why does Sunny have custody of the kids? So like during the hotel fire, which I'm sure we'll deep dive into another time, which was like 2004, Sunny had custody of both Michael and Morgan. And so Carly was like rolling up and was like, I want my kids, I have a court order. And I was like, why would he have custody of them? And then it was like, oh, because Carly's with Alcazar. And I was like, why is Carly with Alcazar? Oh yeah, because Sunny shot her in the head when she was giving birth and it fucked her up. And so it's like, there are real problems to have with like Sunny as a character that no longer work. And him being a real family person actually makes them work. And so now I'm glad Dante like really said what he said. Like he doesn't have to be on Michael's side, but he does need to say, no, I see why he's mad about this. I understand why Michael is mad at him. And I've seen a lot of like, well, if he's not mad because Sunny shot AJ, then he shouldn't be mad now. And I'm like, actually, I think it's like cumulative, right? Like I forgave you for shooting my biological father, and now you turn around and do this. I actually see you in perspective and in frame now. I was also remembering this is not the first time that Sunny has left Michael out in the dark for a woman. You remember when redhead Michael got shot? Sunny hopped in front of Kate instead of Michael. Like Sunny is always stupid over a woman.
And his stupidity over his stupidity over the Sarah Brown's character,
Claudia Zakara.
Claudia again. got him in a situation where he ended up going to jail and he was raped. I mean, I remember there was a tweet about what are the worst things that Sonny has done to the kids, or which kid has had it worse. And a lot of people chose Dante because he shot Dante in the head. But Michael
Sure.
has had horrible, horrible stuff happen to him because he is Sonny's son. And I'm like,
yeah,
it's frustrating. Go ahead.
No. You're absolutely right. And I think that even more so than that, part of the problem is that they made Sonny the moral center. And that's the part that doesn't work. So like you can't have villains who come in because like they have to out villain Sonny. So like he'll be like, this person traffics drugs. We actually don't even know what Sonny traffics, but it's like he's the mobster with the heart of gold. So everybody else has to be like super cartoonish to like work alongside of him. I'm interested to see. I don't want them to do that to Selena Wu. I think and I think it matters that like fans have chosen her to be the person that we're like, oh no. If we're gonna do the mob, it should be this person.
Yep.
And the last thing, and I think that this is the part about Sona that was like forced, is that there was no like arc that made it seem like Sonny understood that Nina did something wrong. And I think they were trying to do that to like sell the romance between Sona in a very lazy way, when they could have just allowed it to play out in a way that was like, actually, I am really mad at you. He keep that energy he had at the hospital, but be like, oh my God, but I love you so much, I can't stay away from you. And actually name that being in Nixon Falls, which people's point is like, oh, well, Sonny didn't look for his family. Actually name that he was really happy there because he didn't have to think about the abuse he suffered as a child, because they always love bringing back his daddy whenever he's insufferable. That he didn't have to think about the awful things that he has done as a mob boss when he was Mike. And like he loved that life with Nina. And I think that would be like an easier way to sell it than like having them like make googly eyes at each other and Nina be like, oh my God, did you see my boyfriend? He like shot somebody. Like, oh my God, he protected me. I don't know if you saw it, but like there was a gun. Like it was so ridiculous. Like the way she was talking to Sasha, I was like, and even Sasha was looking at her like,
You
did he murder someone?
You know he's a gangster, right? And I have to go back to her comment. I mean, we talked about it, I think, last week, where her comment that she knows him better than Carly.
Come on.
Known him for 2 days. Like, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, basically.
Yeah. And you know, Tamara Brown is who made me a Carly fan, right? Like Tams is my girl. I followed her through all of her characters, good and bad. I was very mad when they had her do that shit with Franco Drew. Like I was, you know, that's been my girl forever. I watch Days now because of her. She can do no wrong to me. When she's wrong, she's right. I love Tamara Braun. And so she had posted up this thing that was like, what was like your favorite scene of mine? And somebody posted a video of her going into the 5 family meeting with a fucking bat. And I was like, see, this was Carson, I feel like is very toxic, but you can't like front on her knowing him better. Like that's ridiculous. And that's the kind of stuff that's like, are y'all just trying to like turn fans off? I'm not even a Carson fan. That turned me off of like their conversation. It didn't even make sense. It's like, oh my God, Sonny, my boyfriend, did you see him? I know him better than anybody.
Like,
shut up.
Nina, really? You should research his history with all the women he's been with and how they all suffered because of him. Carly, Brenda, all of them. He drove all of them crazy at some point, and they've all suffered horribly because of being in a relationship with him. So she needs to go back and actually watch GH and do her history so she can figure out whether or not she really wants to be his girlfriend, because it's not pretty.
It was like the ultimate, he's different with me. And there's nothing I hate more than he's different. Honey, you know, he's the same with everyone.
The very same. Actually works with you. And so anyway, my final say is just like Sonny was a character that was brought on during the mob era, and they have not done anything to transition him. And I know that fans get like really excited and they're like, I don't want Sonny to change. He needs to. He needs to grow up. And this whole idea that like Sonny has returned from sounding like a clown when he would like left that dude in the trunk and threatening a teenage.
He was like fucking Bozo the Clown. It was like Krusty the Clown shit.
And like threatening a teenage girl is the return y'all want? Okay, well, I mean, fuck Esme forever, but okay. Anyway, I can talk about Sonny how much I hate him forever, so please take the mic from me, someone.
I will just say, while it's not working for you, Sonny's actually really working for me because he's so ridiculous. I like, of course, like no matter what Sonny's doing when he's on screen, I kind of just have a big fuck you energy for him anyway. But
Always.
like seeing him just kind of flounder and be ridiculous and like honestly kind of be I don't know how else to say this, but a little bitch. It really works for me personally. I love seeing him be the least important person in this Wiley adult storyline. It like really works for me. And I love that there was, you know, like one of those weekly polls at the end of the week. And they're like, who's your favorite character? And it was like Trina, Brando, Michael, Sonny. And of course, whenever Trina's in a poll, she always wins. Just that goes without saying. But like, Michael beat Sonny in the poll on Twitter. And like, people hate Michael on Twitter. So for him to be Sonny, ooh, good luck to all involved. I am not involved. So yeah, double click, always hate Sonny forever. What really wasn't working for me was Dr. Hamilton Finn, medical detective. He just gets worse and worse every week. And here's the thing is that I'm not actually like a Michael Easton slanderer. Like, I'm not a fan per se, but I have liked his characters. Like, I liked Caleb on Port Charles, obviously. I don't really care about John McBain, especially because, you know.
Was it obvious that you like Caleb?
Obviously. It's like the only Michael Easton character that I bring up with any kind of regularity or fondness. But you know, like I didn't really fuck with John McBain because he had bad taste. Picking Natalie over Evangeline. Epic fail. Never. You know, Silas was whatever. Whatever, you know, like I liked Finn and Hayden, and I liked Fana. And that was what really actually cemented Finn as like a character that I liked up until they broke up. And like I've talked about this at length. It did actually come up for me all over again because we watched the Fana breakup the other night, and a slew of Finn slander just came up for me, but I'm not even going to go there. I don't even need to because I can just talk about what happened this week. He spoke for Elizabeth during that whole interaction with Jordan when Jordan was investigating. You don't live here, bro. What are you doing? Like, Elizabeth doesn't need you to be her advocate. She can speak for herself. When Jordan asked to have a look around, he was like, well, I've already had a look around. What, you think you're like that's sufficient? The fucking like police commissioner is there to personally investigate, and you think you having a look around is good enough? And then
Tanya just looked around though. Sorry. It was Tanya being like.
And then he consented for Elizabeth. Like, I'm just like, you don't, again, bruh, you don't live here. What's wrong with you? I know you think you like live here because you sleep on the couch, but you don't. You have your own place to live. And then Elizabeth finally agrees to leave the house, but she won't stay with him, which I actually loved. I just kept on saying, she doesn't like you, bro. She doesn't like you. Take a hint. She would rather be with Franco's ghost than be with you. This is a love triangle between you and a ghost. Sir, have some dignity. And then we finally get, Elizabeth is going into debt to stay at the Metro Court. Like, she would rather go into debt than stay with Finn.
When she's poor because she has to work nights to pay for Cameron's school, but she can go ahead and stay at the Metro Court.
Maybe Carly's giving her a discount.
It's the ghost, your house is haunted discount. And then Lucy rolls up and he's so fucking rude to Lucy. Step back, sir. This is Lucy Coe. Who the fuck do you think you are? And I hate the science man disparages the spiritual woman trope. It's so annoying. It was actually like the peak of my hatred for him this week. Like, sir, you were a vampire. Like, sir, even if we want to just talk about like what you've been fucking with when you've been this character, mind mapping. How is mind mapping more realistic than there being a ghost? Fuck off. And then I loved Ava and I loved Violet in the salon scene. I was like, fuck Finn. Like, y'all using Violet and Ava to give this man a likable moment. Goodbye. I don't, normally I'd be like, oh, cute girl dad. He's getting his, manicure or whatever. Like, sure, that would be cute. But I'm like, after this week, you're not tricking me. And on Maura West's birthday, get out of here. Maura has been through enough. Stop putting her on prop duty. Yes, like there people were like, ooh, Cam. And I was like, you get that. I take that out of your mouth. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. Maura West deserves someone who can carry their own. And I'm not saying that Michael Easton isn't talented, but like he requires a very like powerful, talented scene partner to shine, which he has been lucky enough to have. But like for whatever reason, him and Becky are not connecting. And like that's not Maura's fault. She is tired. She already is like carrying a very large load, like markless shaped load. So it's just not working for me at all. None of it.
I said when I saw the scene of them at the nail salon, I was like, first of all, when do we get a salon? Second of all, I really feel like, because it was so out of place, like it literally could have been anywhere. I feel like they were like, okay, look, people are really mad at Finn. What do we need to do? Okay, call Maura, get Violet. And they filmed that shit like last week and they just slid it in. We need something to make this character likable. I don't know why they're writing it this way. Nobody wants to see, I mean, Elizabeth is not my favorite, has never been my favorite. I've said many, many times Elizabeth is not my favorite. I still want Becky to have a good story. I don't have to like someone to want them to have, and I don't have any personal problem with Becky, obviously don't have a problem with Becky. But like, I like to watch soaps. I like to be entertained. I want to see Elizabeth in like a front burner, good story for her. I think her fans deserve it. I think Becky deserves it. And I don't want it to be about a man. Right now, her story has been about Chase and Aiden and about Finn. She is like in the background of a story that should be about her. And that continues to happen to her. Even when Franco dying propped Jason and Cameron.
Yep.
They brought back Zander's ghost to talk to Cameron because Franco died. And we saw nothing about Elizabeth processing her grief. I don't know who thought in 2022 we wanted to see a storyline that should be focusing on a woman character, focusing on these men. I just, who made that decision? Nobody wants that.
A man.
Well,
Several
yeah,
men.
several men.
I don't know if this is still supposed to be about DID. When I'm watching the storyline, I'm remembering the storylines from One Life to Live. Jessica and Vicky, their stories were not about the men in their lives. It was really focused on them and their own shenanigans. So writers, go ahead. You can do your history watch too. Go and look at One Life to Live and see how they did it. And course correct, because it's not happening right now. Totally agree. It's always all of this. Yeah, Becky does deserve a great storyline, and this isn't it. And it's because their focus is so much on the men and not about her and her needs. And maybe they decided not to let her grieve, or maybe they decided to do this DID story because they realized they did not have her grieve properly for Franco. But it needs to be about her and still not about these men. It's crazy. And yeah, that whole thing of Finn going off on Lucy, I was like, are you kidding me? Lucy's like the, interesting, weird little lamb in this show, and you're going after her. That's like, it was really, really out of pocket. And he knew he was out of pocket because he ended up apologizing because he knew it was out of pocket. So,
He apologized, but then as soon as Lucy left, he disparaged her again.
Yeah, he did.
So he can fuck all the way off.
Yeah.
I just keep waiting for like the reveal of this story to like actually happen. And I'm just like hoping, this is me being very generous. I'm like, I hope y'all know that y'all are like setting this up to be like a story about misogyny, because that's what it's playing out on the screen. And that like what ends up happening is that it drastically shifts to be about Elizabeth's point of view. Mm-hmm. I really, really hope that's what they're doing and this is intentional, because if not, maybe you should do that. Like, normally I don't like to give things away for free, but you could have that. Course correct. This is not working.
It's really not, and I think that there's also something. I mean, we talked about this. It's like what the audience knows and what the people on screen know, and like why that's important. And so they haven't given us enough to know what's happening to make this interesting. Like they're trying to like stick to mystery and whatever, but this has been going on since last year. This has been going on for what? It's about to be May, so this has been what, a 6-month story? Mm-hmm. That we don't have any more clue now than we did when it started. That's actually not a good story to tell. It, even with pacing, you got to let us in. You got to let the audience in on something. We need to like know something that's happening besides that these men are speaking over Elizabeth, because I don't like that.
Yeah, it's like the only thing they've done is eliminate red herrings. They haven't actually given us more information, and kind of like the joy of a DID storyline is like watching the alters run around and wreak havoc.
Yeah.
And nobody else know but the audience. And we're just seeing the havoc, but not actually seeing like the fun part of the havoc, right? Like we don't, DID storylines are fun when the audience is in on it and not in the dark like everyone else.
Right.
It's just very disorienting, and it could be like it is a storyline that I could be so excited about, and I'm just continually not just disappointed but like infuriated. So yet another week of Dr. Hamilton Finn, MD standing for medical detective. Why don't you go learn how to take a pulse and worry less about this? I rest my case. Anyway, why don't we talk about love triangles? What do you see? Will you take us away?
Yeah. So as we like look at what is working so far about like Trina and Rowena and Sabrina, all the Enos. Wanted to like look back on the first love triangle I actually saw when I was started watching GH, which was Zander, Emily, and Nikolas. And so when I was looking back, I actually didn't even realize how far back the love triangle went. I didn't realize that it started with Amber Tamberlin's Emily because I wasn't watching when she was on. Um, so I didn't realize, like the Emily had a crush on Nikolas, but then she was with Zander and ran away with him and all of that. So it actually also puts in perspective for me as a Sabrina fan who wants things to like hurry up and hurry along. I'm like, oh no, this love triangle went on for years and a recast.
Yeah.
Which is I think also important to note. So I wanted to get into actually once I started watching. So basically Emily comes back as a recast in Natalia. And she's like with Zander. She finds out she has cancer. She breaks up with Zander and is like fake with Nikolas to like protect Xander's hearts. And Nikolas, Cass and I were having money issues. They were trying to marry Nikolas off to somebody else. And Emily and Nikolas obviously fall in real love with each other. Emily thinks she's gonna die, so she marries Zander on like what she thought was her deathbed, though she loves Nikolas, and she magically gets better with soap magic. Magic. And so then we are watching as like these two characters who like love each other but are both like good people try to remain away from each other, but they cannot stay away from each other. And so Emily breaks Xander's heart and gets with Nikolas. And then Zander takes a turn. He becomes evil, actually. I mean, I think that Zander was already like complicated, but he wasn't bad. And he actually had some like real grounding. So like Zander was close to Alexis, which was like really hard for her because Zander like set Nikolas up. And so she was like Alexis was like obviously Nikolas's attorney, but she was like close to Zander and his father, Cameron. Then we also had I've lost my notes. Anyway, so we'll just keep going. So we had that happening. And then we also had Zander sleeping with Elizabeth. They had a one night stand. He gets Elizabeth pregnant, which is how we got Cameron. Rick, one of my least faves, who people love for whatever reason. He just never bounced back from keeping Carly in the panic room for me. I'm sorry, I just never could get down with it after that. Is trying to get Zander just like sign over his rights for not yet born Cameron, and is like using his position because somehow after he kept Carly hostage in a panic room, he still becomes DA. I was like, oh, I forgot that happened. So anyway, the conclusion ends up being that they completely ruined Zander. That he like takes Emily hostage. He is about because he was like presumed dead in a hotel fire. He's not dead. Takes Emily hostage, almost like tries to force her to be with him, but then stops. The police come, and then he commits suicide by cop. It was a very interesting rewatch. It was very interesting. And it just reminded me a couple things. One, how much I love female-centered love triangles. And it also made me think like, I actually really like Rory right now, and I hope that they don't ruin him in this way. Like, I hope that, I've always said I'm like Sabrina in game. I'm really into Rowena. I think their chemistry is very cute. I think that we cannot afford to waste like very handsome men of color on GH's canvas. And so like, I do not believe Rory is disposable after he plays this part in like the Sabrina love triangle. I think that I hope that he remains like a viable character that is like that goes on. And I think that what makes this really work is that it's the stuff that the audience knows that everybody else doesn't know. So I think that we have seen in like spoilers that like Josh is gonna really like Rory. You can imagine that Portia is gonna really like Rory. And it's because like Spencer is doing all this stuff, and we know that he loves Trina. But if you remove yourself from that, why if you look at it for just what it is, and you're her friend, you would obviously prefer her to be with Rory, despite him being a cop, that over Spencer, who has like left her on the hook. And so I think that it was really important for her to name all of those things in the gallery scenes. Like, you left me on the hook, you did this, you wanted me to care for you. To see him talk to Esme and make it seem like he's like tossing her aside so that she has the space to be with Rory afterwards. And so anyway, wanted to like just talk to y'all about, what do you like about love triangles? What do you remember about this like past love triangle, and what are your hopes for this future one?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that breakdown. Yeah, that Zander, Emily, Nikolas triangle was one for the ages. I also caught some of the rewatch that Tracey was doing. I didn't watch it all, but it did just kind of also help ground me in like the dynamics between the characters, and they really did. I forgot how dirty they did Zander. It was because I liked Emily and Zander the first time around with Amber Tamblin's Emily, and it actually made me like her more. I know there's actually like I think that there's like kind of a divide between people who really liked Amber Tamblin's Emily and the Nem fans who liked the Natalia and Nikolas, Natalia's Emily and Tyler's Nikolas. And I will say I'm more of I think I understand what people's like problem with the characterization of Emily when Natalia took over. Like, she was a little bit, she was written very sweet in a way that wasn't necessarily in line with Amber's Emily, but the chemistry between Natalia and Tyler like really carried that relationship. Even though some of the scenes I was like, this is ridiculous. Like when they were doing the when they were hunting for the treasure, which I actually really enjoyed, like that kind of like at home caper where like they were searching for the treasure. Sam and her like introduction, which was really cool to watch, was searching for the treasure. But they had all these like flashbacks from when their ancestors, there was like a Quartermain and a Cassadine, and they played their ancestor characters who were also in love, and like there were, he was a pirate and a Russian prince, and like it was just this whole ridiculous thing, and their accents were fucking awful and their costumes were ridiculous, but just the chemistry between them was so like palpable. Like I just kept turning to Tracey and being like, Tracey, they're just standing there and like moaning and sighing, and like I feel like I shouldn't be watching.
Yeah, because they were dating at the time, so it definitely felt like an intrusion.
Yes, like I was like, okay, like sometimes the writing was, but the chemistry really killed it. But then they also like killed Zander. What I also appreciated was it just reminded me like, oh, like this is Cameron's biological father and Spencer's dad, like at odds. And I kind of forget about that connection. I mean, I think about their family connection a lot as them being cousins, but I don't often think about that tension. And so I always would be interested to see that like explored at some point where they're like, I also really want, this is really, really aside, but someday I would like for them to like find out about the Niz affair. And like be like, wait, what? Our parents did what? Like, I just want the kids in general to just like hear about all this like wild shit that their parents got up to. But I agree so much about the the piece around Rory and like, let's not Xander Rory. That's not what I'm interested in. As you said, like attractive men, especially attractive men of color, like this character is like in his 20s, presumably, like that is a important role that needs to be filled by more than just Rory, but we certainly like don't want this to turn into him being such a foil for Spencer that he becomes disposable. Like, not only would I like to see him, you know, after he kind of plays his part in this part of the triangle, be paired with someone else. Like, I wouldn't mind if he like stayed in Sabrina's orbit. There is something about having triangles where they play out in different stages of characters' lives in different ways. That's really important. Even when you do have like a couple that you root for more, there's something about having that just keeps things interesting.
Yeah, I don't recall. I barely recalled that Emily actually fell in love with, well, she had a crush. I believe she had a crush on Nikolas, but then that was Amber Tamlin playing that character. And so when she had the crush, it was understandable that she would have the crush, but I never thought that Emily and Nikolas would actually get together because of Amber and Nikolas and Tyler together just didn't seem like a match to me. And so I forgot that she actually was in like actual love with Zander first. So that was interesting to remember. But yeah, it was a very much a long-term kind of situation where when we were trying to compare them to Spencer and Rory and Trina, I was like, I don't know, because it's too new. I think Spencer, Troy, and Nina. It's like they don't have the same kind of history that Zander and Emily and Nikolas had. So it was really hard for me to do a compare and contrast. But I do agree. I hope that Marina or Rory stays. And I'm hoping in this whole triangle, we get to actually learn more about Rory, get to explore, like maybe Trina, once she gets off the hook of this ridiculous charges, that she spends time trying to get to know Rory as a person outside of being a cop, really outside of being a cop, because I don't want her dealing with cops. But like, what is it like? What's his background? Like, what is his family life? What is his hobbies? You know, all that stuff. I hope we get to have him be anchored in the show, and so we can see more of him, and so that way he can have a real good reason to stay.
Yeah. I've been thinking about like love triangles, especially women-centered love triangles that I've enjoyed, that like had characters who stayed around or who were important. And it's, don't at me. I actually was thinking about Twilight because, you know, Twilight was written and it was like fully written, like Jacob. So like if you're familiar with Twilight, if you're not, please fast forward. I'm so sorry. Shout out to Laura Wright. So like, fast forward. So it was written like a full thing, and Jacob wasn't really supposed to be important in the story. Like the story was always Edward and Bella's story. And then when the author took it to her publisher, they were like, oh, we think this could be like a bigger series. And so they had to like flesh out the Jacob character. And what ended up happening was like this huge divide between fans because like, it was clearly Edward and Bella's story. But for some people, Jacob was like more important, or Jacob like made more sense. And I actually see that in like the Sabrina Warrena thing, where it's like, Spencer's a mess. Spencer's a mess. I mean, he's my mess. He's my child. I love him. All the things, but he's a mess. And if you're talking about like somebody who's going to complicate Trina's life, you're talking about a Cassadine.
Yes.
I can't wait for messy Cassadine. I cannot wait for the messy Cassadine era of Sabrina. I'm talking about it, like, and that's why I hate when people say that like we don't want Trina to like to be in danger, or we don't like the story because we don't want bad things to happen to Trina. That's not true. I want Helena to rise up from the ashes and kidnap Trina, and hold her somewhere in the lethal suite. Like I've been wanting that. Like I love a caper. I love all of that. So I really want some of that messy cast nine stuff to happen between Trina and in the like Sprina era. But it's still complicated. It's still hard. And so there's this other like kind of natural path, this easier path, which is Rory, where it's like less drama, just like a nice little stand-up guy who wants to eat his lunch at the Chuck on the stairs. You know what I'm saying? Like there, and he's very sweet and he cares for her, or he will, you know, we're seeing this like direction for it. And that's like kind of the way I see that triangle. That and then at the end, spoiler alert for Twilight people or non-Twilight people, like Jacob was important still. That's controversial, what happened. But he was still important to the story. Like he wasn't like cast aside, he wasn't seen as not important or like destroyed as a result of the story, as a result of like the love triangle playing out in like Edward and Bella's favor. And so when I think about Sabrina and Warina, that's kind of like the direction I would like to see. I know that fans are going to be divided. I hope that people can like be okay, because there are going to be people who deflect and want Trina with Rory, and that's actually what makes Trina like a leading lady. That's what like cements Trina as being like a heroine. Like putting an important character like Trina in the midst of a love triangle is only good for the Trina character. And I'm a Trina fan, and I hope that other Trina fans are excited to see that play out for her.
Yeah. I want to comment on the whole like we don't want bad things to happen to Trina. No, we don't want racist things to happen to Trina without addressing the racism.
Period.
That's what we don't want. So yeah, she can be kidnapped, she can be drugged, she can be done all these things. But if you're going to do something that's patently racist, then you need to address the racism and don't ignore it. That's what we don't want to happen.
Yep.
We loved it when she was held hostage by Cyrus. Twice. I loved it both times.
Right.
Yep. But it didn't have these like deep racial implications that this storyline has had.
Right.
Like what we don't want and is like Trina being set up by this crazy white girl and possibly going to prison. What we do want is like Trina and Spencer like wandering through the tunnels at Windermere and finding like treasure and like skeletons and you know a secret lab. Like that's what I would like.
And I wouldn't even mind the fact that she is being targeted by a crazy white girl and she's allowing this racist system to affect the outcome. But you need to address that.
Yeah.
Don't ignore it.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is allowing the racism to continue by ignoring how it's a factor. And if you're going to address really heavy racist tendency stories, then you need to address it responsibly. And don't pretend like it's a colorblind thing. It's not a colorblind thing.
Especially when we saw Esme this week, and I was affected by it in a way I didn't know I was going to be affected. When she was like, I want to go to her trial and sit front row and blah, you know what I'm saying? Like that really to me was different than like, I'm gonna do this crazy thing and let the chips fall where they may. Like that was already bad enough, but to like have this person name, I'm going to target and like set up for incarceration this Black girl who I know is innocent, and then I'm gonna sit in the front row and cry about it. You know what I'm like? It was like we knew this was happening.
Yeah.
But it was just like when she said it, I was like, oh no, I want her dead.
Because that's what they would do. That's what they would do. They would like, if we're looking historically, white women accusing Black men of rape, they would be front row center at the lynching. They would be testifying. They would go on the news. they would cry and just be really hard in their conviction that this man did it, knowing that they were lying.
Mhm.
And that's horrible. And so yet for the show to not address that and ignore it and to just actually basically play into it is not what we want to see. And I know there are going to be fans out there comment on YouTube, you guys focus too much on race. Hello, it's life. You need to deal with
for
it.
noticing.
Thank you for noticing and still watching every week and complaining about us on YouTube. Like, you're our biggest fans.
I mean, you're gonna keep us going. You
Always
keep us going. Keep us inspired.
It's giving Stan, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think like it's part of the reason why I was just like, I don't want you to have these stories because y'all don't actually know how to write a nuanced story about race. So I'd rather you just not.
Yeah.
Because like there's so many layers of implications here, and like they have such a hard time even just following like a storyline A to B that I'm like, I don't trust y'all to do nuance. Just like have them wander around the tunnels of Windermere, just like have them, you know, do capers, and like if y'all are gonna be on your color line bullshit, like just do it then.
Right. Yeah. If you're, have her go on an adventure and an escapade. That's fine.
Because I mean, it's also just, I mean, now we're getting into how poorly this shit is written, and maybe that transitions to some of the previews if we wrap this up. But like, it's also just like, I said this before, the fact that a teenager with a burner phone is beating Spinelli and Brick. It's unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about? We are like, she never had any gloves, so her fingerprints are all over this. Like, it's just dumb. You didn't ping anything. Jordan saw Trina. Like, it's all really bad. It's just all really bad.
And the adults who say that they care are not putting into the energy into it of saying they care. We would have like our vets flying all the way to Switzerland to find some clue over Luke, who's been dead or has been off the show for a while. No one cares about Luke being dead. And yet they're spending all expensive paid trips to Switzerland, going all undercover, having, you know, renting a van to do surveillance, doing all kinds of stuff over Victor, and all they can do is a cursory forensics report on a cell phone and still not find compelling evidence.
They rented a van to do surveillance on Nikolas or Hayden when we already knew that shit was what it was. Why ain't nobody doing surveillance on Esme?
Right.
Spinelli, where you at?
Our surveillance on Esme is Spencer and Nikolas.
Oh,
it's over.
God, these dummies.
They're so stupid. I mean, at least Spencer understands he's supposed to be doing surveillance. I mean, he's doing an awful job of it. Nikolas, ay.
And Laura is catching on to Esme's ways. If she can go so far as say, Sonny, if you do this, I'm going to make sure the DA prosecutes you to the extent of the law, then you need to put that same energy into Esme, because she's not only ruining Trina, she's ruining your family's lives. And all you can do is just lecture Nikolas. You can't lecture Nikolas. He's too far gone. You need to actually use your mayoral powers and investigate this the way that you would investigate Sonny. Because Trina is actually innocent.
They really like the pacing of this story is so strange because they really set it up to be, it would be so easy to exonerate Trina. You have all these people that believe that she's innocent, but you won't actually let them act on it because you're trying to like stretch the story out further. And you know, that's just not on me. Like, it's not on me to try to make that make sense.
And y'all should have just did a better job of setting it up. Like, do something in a way that could have made Trina seem like, oh, she bought an NFT with her credit card. It's like your smoking gun. Get out of here. Anyway, we have ventured from the love triangle. Sandra, can you take us into previews and we will sprinkle in our hot takes?
Sure. So, Soap Opera Digest, it was the May sweeps preview edition. So we have actually a lot of previews for like all the storylines for the month ahead. So I think we should start there and then we can go into the next week, which I'll go ahead and say is like almost all Wiley's adults. So I thought we'd start with the May preview so we're not just talking about Wiley's adults, even though the storyline has gotten better thanks to Sasha and Harmony. But you know, it's a bit overwhelming.
All Wiley's adults?
It's like I had to break up. You know how I like to like organize the spoilers based on storyline? I had to break it up because it was just like a giant chunk of Wiley's adults. So I had to like, yeah. What I will say is that, you know, the lead storyline for sweeps, I said this last week too, is not necessarily the primary focus. So it is going to play a really big part in sweeps, but it's not like the only thing that's going on. And I've seen also the spoilers for the week after, and it's much more balanced. So I think they're just kind of like getting this like Harmony story, like having her part of the story, like pushing it through.
Okay.
Let's start with just kind of like, there's like a bunch of small spoilers for the like ancillary storyline. So I'm going to start there and then we'll go through the larger storyline. So Selena is taking steps to solidify her position in Port Charles, but she's also kind of navigating, she doesn't want to offend Sunny. She is not above using her connections, family and otherwise, to get ahead in Port Charles. Martin returns to Port Charles and he must finally choose between his friendship with Valentine and his relationship with Lucy. Valentine, don't be a cockblock. Come on.
Just because whatever you're doing can't get you what you need.
Okay.
You let Martin get what he needs.
Let him live. Chet and Terry try to make an official go of their relationship. So yay, return of Cherry. Although I'm watching UGH because I called that Terry was going to be like featured again come May. Here it is. It's May and it's Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And I was like, Terry's going to come back in May for that. I see you. So we better be seeing Terry beyond May and June, which is Pride Month. Okay. I'm calling you out. Stop it. I want to see Terry all year. I'm watching you. Anyway, so we see Chet and Terry and they're trying to like pick up their relationship, but Amy and Terry's work friction may prove to be a stumbling block.
Amy, tomato, tomato, boo.
I will fight you, Amy. I will fight you. I didn't forget you playing Karen to Brad and trying to call him and then trying to undermine Terry. I'm watching you. I know you had your little interaction with Dante and I would have normally been amused by it this week, but I was not amused. I'm watching you. Drew and Michael have big plans for Aurora, but not everybody in the Quartermain family is on board.
I wonder who.
Could it be Wiley?
The little drama queen Wiley. I'm tired of him.
Greenhawk.
Wiley comes up and be like, I don't agree with this at all.
This is not strategic. He's like, I think we should just let Valentine run the company. He's making us money.
Should have left me with my two dads.
Don't be messing with my inheritance. He's doing a good job.
Oh, I hope it's Leo. Because we know Leo is the real brain trust of the Quartermains. He was also, just sidebar, he was so cute.
He was.
Speaking of, a figure from the past is about to make Brooklyn and Chase's next steps very complicated.
Just sleep together. Go get in the shower together and let it be.
Let chillin' bang.
Let chillin' bang.
Who in the past cares about
How do they don't, neither of them have pasts enough. Like, stop it. Just let them be together. They were actually really cute this week. Like, I was like, okay.
That almost kiss was nice.
I have been a chillin' neutral in the past, but just like Baby's dad in Dirty Dancing, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong.
That's right.
I like chillin'. I think they're cute. I think that there was like a thing that flipped, that like they now have, like they turned up the Kim.
Yes.
Just let them do it. We need more like couples that have that kind of balance, and their story can be them being cute together. And that's a good story that we need on the show.
They redeemed themselves from that non-sauna scene that I needed them to let go of. So I'm glad that they have. And now let's just let this finally happen.
Yeah.
It's like to quote Nikolas Chavez when he was talking about Sprina, because he said Sprina can be together and still have drama, because like clearly he's, you know, he has opinions about his storyline as well. Chillin can be together and have a storyline. Like, not every couple needs like obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. Like, let some couples be together and like work and have storylines for them like actually being together that aren't about relationship drama. And I think Chillin, they can be so fun, and they can also play the angst. Like I you know, but I think that their sweet spot is really being like fun and flirty. And so they could have like a little hijinks, you know, and a little adventure, little Eddie Mayne Jr. storyline that doesn't involve them, you know, staring at each other from across the room, that doesn't involve them taking care of a baby. Like, just let Chillin live. My God. Speaking of a couple that is like together that we love, we have a Sante spoiler. Sam and the audience will get a whole new window into Dante and Dante's past by the time June begins.
More shower scenes?
Yes, it all takes place in the shower.
They could just put a phone in the shower.
Yes.
He could take his calls there.
It's like when you have like stay at a hotel that hasn't been like retrofitted and it still has like a phone in the bathroom.
Yeah,
I like it.
Let me put on my Sam Stan hat for a second. Sam looked amazing last week. I was so happy to see her. I would love to see her more within this like Wiley's adults universe, but that also would mean that we'd have to see Temp Alexis, and I'm just like, can we see Sam without her? We got the reveal. Let's send Temp Alexis off. Let's bring Sam in. Sam looked great. I think she thought she did a really great job with like the not I told you so, but like actually being there for her mom. And I really wish we would have been able to see her and Downtown a little date before all of the drama. But they both were killing it last week. Yeah. Sam Stan hat off.
Oh, you don't ever have to take that off. You can just keep that on all the time. Yeah, I loved both of them. I would have liked to see more of them together, but that's always my note for GH. I'd like to see Santi together more. I loved how like Dante's just so reasonable. He's so reasonable, but it to me, it's not in a way that's like boring. It's like he brings like this grounding that's so necessary to so many different scenes. Like, of course, like I loved the scenes with him being like, Sonny, step off. Like, what's wrong with you? And he still was like, I'm not taking sides. I'm just being reasonable. And I like that role for Dante, but I'm also very curious about like, what is this secret? We know it's like just when you think you know everything about a character, that's one of the things I like about soaps. Just when you think you know a character really well, then they throw in, you know, a new piece of information. And so I'm very curious about what this will be. Will it be something about like, you know, his time while he was away, right, doing WSB things, or is it like further back? Is it like a Bensonhurst thing? Remember when he knew Brenda and we thought that maybe like he had a kid with Brenda? That was
I loved it.
Oh, wow.
So I'm curious about it, and I'm happy about Sante having a story that isn't about like the potential love triangle with Drew. Like I want them to have like their own thing away from that ecosystem, because that's not Drew to me. Let's see. Money and wealth may prove to be a big issue for Maxie and Austin's romance, as you had predicted.
Oh.
Who cares? I mean, I care in that, like, let's end this. I wish the spoiler was like, we will all be free from this storyline by the end of May Sweets. Speaking of storylines I wish we were free from, the loss of Jason and her concerns about her health will begin to take a toll on Britt. May will culminate in a big crash for her, and allegedly it's something the audience will not want to miss.
Why does it have to be the loss of Jason? She's got Sabrina Wu on her neck. Let that be enough. That's stressful. Jason is dead.
It's a one night stand that just will never fucking end. And I actually like Jabrit fans like came at me on Twitter, and I was like, I didn't even know y'all existed. Jabrit fans? Listen, I liked Jason and Britt when it was happening. I was like, oh, this is kind of cute. And then we got Charlie, and then he died. Like, let's let it be. Let's bury it in the tunnel with Jason. Thank you.
I'm grateful that we haven't had to deal with the funeral or a memorial. Yeah. I think they let that die. It needs to stay dead, and let Jason stay dead.
R.I.P. Pieces. Speaking of R.I.P., Liz and Finn have been dealing with these strange incidents, which are only going to increase in number and severity. Turns out staying in the Metro Core is not going to fix things. And that may motivate Elizabeth to really begin to question if they could be messages from Franco. I'm disappointed that there's not more on this. And I was really hoping we would get like an actual reveal during sweeps. So this was a very disappointing preview, to be honest.
Maybe there'll be a message from Franco to let Finn go. You apparently are not in love with Finn. Drop it. There'll be a big sign in her living room. You aren't in love with Finn. Break up with him.
Here's what I am manifesting in my fan fiction head for Elizabeth. 1, Franco's not dead. That Austin will go away and Roger will come back as Franco. I actually don't care for the character of Franco, but I did like his interaction with Liz and her family. Let's just do it. Let's bring him back. And then the other thing is that Liz's alter has been the one keeping Lucky away from the family, and so he's not as big of a deadbeat as we thought he was. He's like a half deadbeat. And then he comes back, and him and William Lipton, JJ comes back, not any other Lucky. JJ comes back, and him and William Lipton share very beautiful scenes where they play the guitar together. This is what I'm manifesting.
Aw.
Thank you.
That's so sweet.
You know how I feel about white men playing guitar, but I'll take it. For that, I really like. It's such a miss that they don't let Cameron have feelings about Lucky being out of his life. They won't let anyone really address the fact that like Lucky is his dad. Like Lucky is the man who raised him, and anyone who's like actually watched the show like knows that. It's very strange. So I would like, this is controversial. But I still want my LNL2 reunion. It doesn't have to be forever because it's a soap, but like they didn't let Rebecca and Jonathan play that, even though they really, really wanted to. And it was part of the reason why Jonathan came back. And like that relationship was part of the reason why he even stayed on the show as long as he did. Like, it was an important relationship for both characters, and it never really got its due. So, and I really want those Cameron and Lucky beats. I think it's really important for Cameron's character. Even William Lipton has said he wants that too. So give it to William. He deserves it.
I'll also say, oh, go ahead.
Back. We need to do a hashtag Jonathan Jackson come back. Jonathan Jackson come back. Jonathan,
I just hope that might.
We don't look too deep into Jonathan Jackson. We
Don't
don't do that. We don't look too deep into Jonathan Jackson. We started looking at his Instagram, and I was like, nope.
I was like reading things to Tracey, and Tracy's like, I don't want to hear it. I was like, I don't. Anyway, let's not talk about it.
I'm blinded to it.
Okay.
But I will also say, though I don't care for Markowitz, I mean, obviously, I think it's very bizarre that Liz and Nikolas are not in each other's lives.
So weird.
It is beyond ridiculous that they have no relationship. Like the fact that the sex tape thing is happening, and like Esme might have done it, and Elizabeth thinks that Esme did it, and Esme is staying at Windermere. That's the fact that like something like huge is happening, and Elizabeth's kids are staying at Nikolas's mom's house, and he hasn't checked in on her. It is just such a tragic waste of like relationship and history and what soaps are built on, to have them not be in relationship with each other. I don't want to see Markowitz any more than I have to either. But if he's gonna be there, like at least let's acknowledge that.
Yeah, weren't they like closely, like Franco and Liz and Ava and Nikolas, they were like starting to be like double date buddies, and all of a sudden now that Franco's gone, it's like Nikolas hasn't been back to Liz's place for a while.
I don't know if I would say they were double date buddies. It was more like they were in that weird quad where like they were maybe gonna get together, but they were in relationship, and they were like deeply involved in each other's stories because of the friendships between Franco and Ava and Elizabeth and Nikolas. And while of course like the Elizabeth and Nikolas, like that version of them just like isn't quite, it's not landing, just like all the other relationships with Nikolas and his like past. Like Elizabeth, like the real Elizabeth with the real Nikolas, would be rolling up to Windermere to be like, the fuck you doing? Like she would be right there with Laura being like, you have a scorpion under your roof, what are you doing? Like she would be giving the kind of energy that she was giving to Britt, to Hayden, to Esme, and she'd be like, what are you doing messing around with this teenage girl? Like the fact that none of that's happening is so strange. And like I'm not saying I want to like inflict Marcus on Becky, she doesn't deserve that, but like the story wise it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if not Elizabeth, at least one of her alters.
For real. For real, that would be hilarious. One of her alters rolled up and was like, actually did something completely out of character for Elizabeth. I mean, like, yeah, you know, maybe Trina did do it. You know, like something, just something. Even if you don't want to play the usual Elizabeth and Nikolas beats, there's a way that you could do that. But like, just pretending like they're not, and that like Nikolas isn't part of Cameron's life, that Elizabeth isn't part of Spencer's life. It's just, it's very strange, especially considering how close Spencer and Cam and Spencer have never been closer. And yet there's not an acknowledgement about the relationship between their parents, all their parents, actually. Anyway. Let's talk about the Ice Princess. So we have a few like Ice Princess vet related spoilers for May. A miscommunication forces Mac and Felicia to have a frank conversation about their hopes, dreams, and regrets. Revisiting the Mac and Felicia story. It's interesting. They've had a wild ride. They've kind of glossed over some of the shadier things that have happened in their relationship. So I'm wondering, like, how much of the old dirt are we gonna, you know, bring back up? Because it was messy. Mac and Felicia were messy.
It's that dirty laundry. I'm ready.
Yes. Laura finds herself in a difficult position as she is trying to maintain control of over her family in direct opposition to Victor, who is obviously trying to assert his own dominance over their shared family. So more, I guess that means Victor's returning. Charles Shaughnessy was out for a while, and I'm very much looking forward to his return. Love Laura and Victor scenes. The chem is wonderful. And then Valentine is, you know, obsessed with Anna per usual. He's as interested in her as he has ever been. And Anna is, you know, trying to sort out her feelings for Valentine and tackling a future that finally has nothing to do with Peter. And in addition to that, Anna is nursing lingering doubts about Jennifer Smith's complicity in Luke's death. So hopefully that means more Vanna coming soon. We were actually, Tracey and I were at the Finola and Amanda Setton Zoom, actually during the usual time that we usually record Sunday Shift. And Finola was very tight-lipped about Vanna. She was like, I guess we're putting them on hold. And so I was worried we wouldn't see them at all this sweeps, but I think she was just being very like British and reserved and I don't know. So I'm happy that they're, even though it seems like their story is still going to continue to be moving slowly. JPS is still filming for the Villains of Valley View, I believe is the name of his Disney Plus series. But they're still doing it. And I appreciate his commitment to filming both shows daily, you know, like having his 5 a.m. call times. And I appreciate Finola being able to meet him there as well. So
yeah, absolutely. I just like the commitment from these two actors to give us this story is why I'm like, I'm here for it. However you give it to me. However, I mean, I want it now. I want all of my Vanna all the time. And really, you can just put them on screen kissing for me. Like, I'd be fine with it. But I'm really happy with their commitment as two actors wanting to tell us a good story. And I'm going to be here for it. I'm going to be patient for it. I'm only going to complain to y'all off recording and in our DMs. I will not complain about the pacing publicly because yeah, they're putting in a lot of work for us. Early call times and double duty. So thank you, Finola. Thank you, JPS.
we love you. And then sex tape. Ryan is impatient to move his plan along and will prompt Esme to kick things into high gear. Whew. The situation with Trina and Esme has exposed that there are cracks in the foundation of the Neva marriage. Yes. Best thing Esme's ever done. As Esme is taking her plan to end their marriage to the next level, they will be quite susceptible to her manipulations. Which I like. I'm just taking this, and I've believed this all along. Nikolas does not have a plan. Okay, like he may say, like, oh, I'm just trying to keep an eye on her, but he's falling for this act, and I refuse to believe anything differently. And this spoiler kind of just confirms that for me. There aren't a lot of people who think he has a plan, but when they do come up, I'm just like, no. We don't say that here. We don't defend Nikolas here. This is not a freedom of speech zone. I'm not the government, to quote Brando. Okay. Spencer is making a huge sacrifice in hopes of luring Esme into revealing her true face. But the longer he keeps his secret and the longer it takes him to execute his dumbass plan, that's me paraphrasing, the more time Esme has to outmaneuver him and the more time Trina has to develop relationships elsewhere. So it's more Spencer suffering on the horizon, which really works for me. It's good for him. You know, he's my child. This is a parenting move. You need a little suffering. You need more.
Of love. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good for Trina. Go
Good.
Explore.
Yes.
More. Tell us what's going on.
Tell us all about
Explore,
it.
do investigations. Physical.
Auntie Tanya has spoken.
I don't necessarily may not want to see it as an auntie perspective, but I want to see it for her and a character perspective.
Yeah, I was like saying that I think that Sprina fans, us, are gonna have to be prepared to see her hit milestones with Rory that she hasn't hit with Spencer. Because if they're gonna,
Yes, and I have zero problem with that personally, because we've seen, like, he's hit plenty of milestones with Esme that we have been forced to watch. So
Right.
Yep.
I'm ready. It's time to bring some balance to this dynamic. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, I love Trina and I love Spencer. They are both two of my favorite characters. They're my favorite characters for very different reasons. I love them separate. I love them together. And this is actually important for both of their characters. It's like both important to Trina because she deserves like all the attention, happiness, all the action, to be honest, to be the sex positive auntie, not to say that y'all aren't too, but you know. And
I cringe a little.
I'll own up to it. It's also like it's important for Spencer, his maturity. It's important for him to be humbled. It's important for him to understand the impact of his actions on her and that there's consequences for the choices that he's made. Yeah. And like, yeah, he's been manipulated, but you need to learn about these crazy white girls, okay? Right.
And it's also, I think a lot about how their story has played. And like, I was one of the main people who like did not like that Trina felt undesirable in the like dynamic, that like there was that basically like every boy on canvas like overlooked her for Josh, and then Spencer comes in and like is interested in her but then has a girlfriend, and it just never sat right with me that was like the way that it played out, and that she was supposed to basically sit around and like wait for him to like come to his senses, and like she's had to watch him be in relationship with Esme the entire time. She's had to like see them kissing up on each other at her gallery opening. She's had to like be there for parts of their relationship. And so even when this whole thing passes, and his plan is exposed and she knows, I don't want her to like forgive him and be like, oh my God, you did this for me, I love you so much. I want her to actually feel like I've built something else with somebody else, and he has to watch that too, because she had to watch him be in a relationship with Esme all the time.
Fair is fair.
Not only watch them be in a relationship, but watch him throw her under the bus publicly. I mean, that's gonna take a while to get over.
Yep. Actions have consequences, and that's something that Spencer really struggles with, actually. He has a really hard time conceptualizing that because of his privilege. And so it's for your own good, boo. It's for your own good. This is tough love. And I love it. More suffering, please. It was actually like I was being very petty, and I was like, the thing I'm gonna say that works for me is Spencer suffering. And I'm only like partially joking. One would think from my Twitter feed that I don't care for Spencer, but I really, really love him. I promise. I just also like, part of loving him is like, you got to watch him be taken down quite a few pegs. It's good for him. Let's just get the Ashfords out of the way. Things will come to a head between Curtis and Marshall. The audience will finally receive an answer to what happened to Marshall, but Chris and Dan caution the audience that this is going to be an ongoing story, and all may not be what it first appears to be. I'm so sorry, Tanya. I'm so sorry.
I thought we already had an answer.
No.
There's more?
There's more, and then there's going to be even more that we don't find out during sweeps, unfortunately.
Great. Moving on.
This one is juicy. Jordan is trying to move on, but the big confession that Portia gave her months ago is going to recur in her mind.
Yes.
And we also saw in that scene with Portia and Curtis, which was very hard to pay attention to. I had to go back and watch it again to catch this moment. Not because of Brooke, of course. Normally, like I can't keep my eyes off of her, but I can't like hold on to the content of their dialogue because I just do not like them as a couple. But Curtis said that piece around, like, I know how ethics are so important to you and the truth, and that won't be a problem with us moving forward. And Portia was like, yeah, great. Like, she had that look of like, uh-oh, that we haven't seen from her in a while. So it looks like they'll be picking back up on the Trina paternity piece, or at least like, we don't know if it's about Trina's paternity, but Curtis did say, I know I'm not Trina's father. So that kind of like makes me think, oh, he's Trina's father, as many of the other hints have pointed to. I was kind of hoping, much like everyone, that they were just going to drop that story. But either way, I'm excited to see how that's going to play out for Trina. Just because we know Tabiana can do anything. So she can make anything interesting. And finally, Wiley's adults. So we're gonna have the visitation rights hearing, or them gearing up for it. Nina is like going full force, and there's gonna be an issue with Sunny needing to choose sides, and Sunny and Nina will face a will they or won't they moment. Moving on. Now that Alexis and Carly know that Harmony killed Neil, the question is why? Is it? And Carly is going to be being nosy as fuck as usual and trying to discover the truth about Willow's biological parents.
I want Carly to go be nosy for Trina.
Right. And so this will, of course, have ripple effects for Milo and other characters as well. After the ordeal with Harmony, Alexis redoubles her efforts to make the invader the pinnacle of journalism, but a familiar detractor is going to come out of the woodwork and challenge Alexis. I don't really care. Especially, it's like hard to do this like whole Harmony fallout without Nancy. Regardless of how some of us feel about Nancy, especially Tanya. But like Nancy has played Alexis for a quarter of a century. So, and like Alexis is a very distinct character. Like she's not like a lot of other women on soaps. Like she's kind of like, the working woman trope, but also she's like kind of quirky. And like, there's just something very specific about her characterization that like, I definitely don't envy the temp recast. That's what I'm gonna be kind of, that's what I'm gonna say about that. It's just hard. It's also hard because like this story has been building for so long. And it's actually been one of the Alexis stories that I've been interested in, which I know Alexis stans don't feel that way. And I'm not an Alexis stan, so we're gonna differ there. But it's really disappointing to not see and especially because I think Inga and Nancy were such good scene partners that not getting to see them play out like this huge climax in their relationship is really disappointing. And it is what it is, the timing, Nancy's health, all of that. It doesn't make it any less disappointing though.
Yeah, I mean, I was like seeing that when people were like, you were very gracious to the recast. It's so nice of you. I'll follow your lead. I see people being like, do y'all know Nancy? Yes, we're all on the same internet. I absolutely know where Nancy is, and it still was hard. Thank you.
Yep.
I thought the recast was great.
You didn't. You couldn't have possibly. See, you're making me lose my graciousness. Let's move on.
Oh, okay. We'll move on. Nancy will be back. Maybe by the end of sweep. I don't know, but I know she went back to work basically at the same time as her temps scenes were playing out. So we might see her anywhere from the next. Who knows? Maybe she'll show up before the end of sweeps because sometimes scenes air like anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks after being aired, depending on. So who knows? The fallout from the accident with Harmony. Expectations at work and her lingering grief over the loss of baby Liam will put a real strain on Sasha and will result in a wild new direction for the family. Yikes. Oh, you know what? I don't know what to say about that. Besides, I know Sophia is gonna kill it. She's gonna kill it regardless of what she's handed. I'm sure, and Johnny will do a great job, and I'm sure crazy ass Gladys is going to be in there making a mess. I really hope they go in the direction of Gladys being supportive, but she could also just as easily go in the direction of like blackmailing Sasha. So I don't know. I will say she is keeping me on my toes. I think that's something that Bonnie Burrows does really well. She keeps everyone on her toes. And she just injects like the right amount of levity into scenes by being so wild. And so I really appreciated her this week.
Yeah. Just like Johnny and Sophia, there's something that Bonnie does that only she could do. I don't know how anyone else could step into that role because she does this thing where it's like so wild, but it's like not overshadowing. So like when Carly was talking to her and she was just like, I'm fine too. Carly was like, I know, I'm looking at you. Like that with another actress could have been too much, but with Bonnie, it was just perfect. It's something about her Gladys that just gives me exactly what I need for the moment, and then we move on. And like she just teeters between like being really supportive and really wild. And it's such a skill that I have not seen many other actresses be able to play.
Like I like it when she was like, because I'm a caring person, you should try it sometime. I was like, well, actually, because she was involved in the accident. That was hilarious.
She was like, well, I don't know if you should say that.
Oh yeah,
It was nobody's fault.
Brandon was like, there's not really a right or a wrong here. And she was like, I don't know if you should say that.
There is a right.
So good. And I also really loved how protective she was of Sasha. And I loved her stealing the memory card.
Yeah.
I was like, Gladys was like, this is how we do it in Connecticut. Okay. I'm a messy white woman from Connecticut. I'm trashy. Let's do this. And I loved it. And what I will also say about this storyline is that, you know, these are three characters like Sasha, Brando, and Gladys that kind of like have a hard time sometimes on social media. Like when they come up, people are like, boo, like not because of their performances, but because their writing's like so spotty. And like I think people get frustrated that they're like there instead of their faves sometimes, you know, like why are these people on the canvas and not my faves? And what I appreciate about them is that no matter what, they show up, they do an amazing job. And we actually do need we need newer characters on the canvas too. We need characters that aren't necessarily like related to everyone else, or like, even though they're related to Sunny, but like, you know, you have characters like Spencer, who's like literally related to everyone on the canvas, and not everyone can do that. We do need new energy. And I think if they could just harness that better, the writers, then these characters could really, and already do add so much to the canvas. So let's talk about what's going to happen this week. Whew, this has been the longest preview session of all time. Which is good. It also means like things are happening and like multiple stories are moving for multiple characters. So,
and we're interspersing our hot takes too, so that adds to the length. Yes.
See what we did there? Structure. So there's some like kind of, we'll start with the other spoilers and we're going to end with Wiley's adults because that's like the predominant storyline this week. So we have a little like miscellaneous, you know, straggler storylines, for lack of a better word. We have Britt, Nina, and Albrecht spending a night out. I'm sure that will weave into like the Wiley's adult story, but you know, obviously I hope, you know, Britt's probably going to talk about, you know, being stood up and online dating. God, please give her a different storyline. Maxie also confronts Austin with an issue. He does not have enough availability to be a good babysitter. Chase is apologetic about forgetting special plans with Brooklyn. Yikes, just let Chillin be together. And then Jordan and Curtis cross at General Hospital. In the kind of like, I'm putting kind of Elizabeth and like Cherry in the same category, same ecosystem, because Elizabeth and Terry go out on an outing that doesn't go as planned. Later on in the week, at kind of at the same time as Sunny is welcoming Chet back. And Dante will also be in that scene too. So it's like the beginning of Cherry's reemergence. And then on Monday, Finn tries to cheer Elizabeth up and take her mind off everything. Please don't give us a Fizz love scene. There have been like, that's been part of the speculation online, and I really don't need like fragile Liz and Finn. Like I don't want that for so many reasons. I don't want that for Elizabeth. I don't want that for me. I don't want it.
I don't want to see it. Hashtag Tanya.
No. And then we also have Mac and Felicia cooing over Bailey and reminiscing, as well as seeking out Anna and Robert. We have some Valentine spoilers as well. I'm hoping that means we're gonna get some Vanna. Cue my clown makeup. But Nina talks with Phyllis when Valentine arrives. I'm assuming that Nina's gonna ask Valentine to testify on her behalf, and I will be interested to hear his response because he's not been granting her requests as of late. And I would like that trend to continue. Unless he's going to take the stand and get cross-examined and have to admit that Nina's not a part of Charlotte's life whatsoever. In fact, Charlotte called her for help and then she didn't do shit. Whatever. Valentine will also offer Gladys assistance. There are other ways I would like Valentine to be used, obviously, but I do like the Valentine Gladys dynamic. It's been very funny in the past, so I'm not mad at it. And then Lucy and Martin reunite, right? We heard about this in the other spoilers, and defend their relationship to Valentine. So hopefully this is Martin being like, I know I have like a million wives that I owe alimony to, but I choose Lucy. Get with the program, Valentine. And finally, the bulk of the story this week, or at least the bulk of the spoilers. Oh, one more thing. We will see Joss and Trina at the very least. It's not in the day-by-day spoilers, so I don't know when, but there is a picture of them in Soap Opera Digest showing up to yoga class together, and they both look beautiful. And
Aww.
they also look like they're smiling at someone. I hope it's Rory. I hope Rory's at yoga class.
Shirtless Rory scene?
We can only
I
hope.
think they have on shirts in yoga.
They don't have to, though.
They don't have to.
He can still be scantily clad in other ways.
Or maybe we'll get a Dante Rory communal. No, I don't want to see that, actually. Never mind.
Oh, I mean, I kind of do. I'm a free spirit. So they will be in the mix. I'm very excited about that. And just, to let everyone know, next week is much more balanced, and like the fall, not this coming week, but the following week, and there will be a lot of the teen story happening then. Okay, Wiley's adults. Carly, let's start with Carly. Everyone's, Tracey's fave, and maybe not so much everyone else's. Carly shares shocking news with Willow. You know what? I've been giving Carly a hard time for not minding her own business, but I'm ready for like something to move. It was really hard to for no one to tell Willow what was going on Friday. I was just like, please, someone just tell her what's going on. Although I loved the scenes with her and Sophia. I think Katie and Sophia are really good together, and they should be together more often. So I hope this storyline facilitates that. Carly presses Harmony to tell the truth. Harmony asks Carly to make a promise. Carly and Michael are careful about what they say around Wiley. Then there's some TJ spoilers, and I'm assuming it's going to be around this story because he is Harmony's doctor. TJ cares for his patient on a tough case, and then Britt counsels TJ. Which also, I wouldn't be mad at little Britt and TJ.
Right?
That's
an interesting character arc.
I'm team TJ, Molly need to break up, and I have been for years. Sunny and Spinelli share an unexpected warm moment. Sunny opens up to Nina as they get closer. I'm sure there will be lots of whispering. Sunny is visited by an old friend, and Dex, who is a newcomer, who is a young-ish white boy that people think is cute. I would have no way of knowing. He's there, he seems cute. He's not my type for a myriad of reasons. He lobbies Sunny for a job. So we have a new young person apparently going to be a part of the mob scene. People are speculating that he's going to be for Joss. Sure, why not?
All I'm hearing is fast forward, fast forward, fast forward.
Oh yeah, I think part of it, what I left off from the sex tape storyline, spoiler, I forgot to add this, is that there's going to be continued tension between Chaos. So their relationship's going to be on the rocks. So it would make sense for there to be an interloper.
I mean, why? I'm sorry, GH casting. I mean, your casting in general is awesome, but why couldn't it be a Wu family member?
I know.
Why? And just another, you know?
I don't need any more like Sunny mob people. We need more woos. We don't need more Corinthi.
We need more woos. Bring us a woo.
Especially because it seems so clear that like eventually Brando is going to end up working for Sunny. That like I don't need another.
Yeah, he doesn't need any more people.
I don't like it. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I guess maybe I might. No, I'm not even gonna pretend like I'm gonna like it. Then we have Michael, Sasha, and Brando try to distract Willow. Sorry. And Willow is in disbelief. I don't know what they're gonna do with this Willow reveal. Like, is Carly actually gonna tell her that she's not Harmony's daughter? It seems like she's just gonna tell Willow that Harmony like attacked her and like, but not the rest. Is kind of
not that she killed Neil.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like what Carly knows is not even the full knowledge, right? Carly doesn't know about Nina.
No.
She just knows that Willow isn't Harmony's daughter.
But she also told Jordan that.
Right. And so they were saying like we should tell Willow before she finds out via the investigation. So what the sense that I'm getting is that she's going to tell Willow that Harmony attacked her. And maybe like the pieces around they think that she killed Neil, they think that she killed Brendan, because there's just going to be no way around that. But the reveal around her not being Harmony's biological daughter, maybe that'll happen later in the week. I just don't know how much longer they can keep that from her if Jordan knows.
Mm-hmm.
Which also those scenes with Carly and Jordan were so dumb. Like that Jordan kept being like, but why would she do it? Carly just said Willow's not her daughter. And I don't think that you need to know that it was Nina to know why she was doing what she was doing.
I kind of feel like Jordan was interrogating Carly like Carly is the guilty party and not the victim. Just like expecting her to have all this knowledge about how Harmony was thinking, and which seemed really off to me.
Nina needs Scott's complete attention now.
Does she?
No, she does not. Scott needs to be focused on Trina.
You said it.
I feel like what might happen is like Nina's going to take advantage of the family like disruption with what's happening with Harmony. And she's going to like use that. I mean, obviously she's going to use that against them in court, but like she's also like taking this moment where they're all like in shambles to like get her defense together. So I think or her attack plan, because she's not really on the defense, she's on the offense, even though she would totally have you say otherwise. So that's going to be very yucky, just yucky all around. And finally, the end of the week, Harmony makes a plan. It does not look good for my wife, Harmony. It's not looking good for her. I really hope she lives. I think that there's an issue with GH with, I think this is something they did with Esme. If we want to put Harmony in the villain category, I actually think she's like more, if it's a spectrum, she's like more on like in the middle between like villain and heroine, but I mean, in my heart, she's like all the way over here, but I'm being objective. I'd put her somewhere in the middle in the gray area. But I think there can be an issue when someone's doing really well to like oversaturate, right? Like I think that they did that with Esme and Avery. Like Avery's such a good actor that like they lay too much Esme on us because she's so good. And like there's something to be said about using someone in certain ways and then having them kind of be off canvas or like less of a focus. So I don't want them to kill Harmony. I also realize she can't sustain the level of crazy that she's been doing. So what I would really like, they've talked a lot about her having a psychotic break. I would really like for her to go to Shady Brook, to go to Ferncliff, to like go away for a while to rehabilitate, and then have her pick up her story elsewhere. I said this in the Harmony Hive space that we had for Inga's birthday yesterday that Susie organized. That like I would really like it if like also Esme got sent off to Ferncliff or something and like their stories converged. And for actually part of Harmony's further redemption arc would be like being part of like foiling Esme. That's what I would like. I also think it would be really cool to see scenes between Avery and Inga because they're both really good. We've already seen them together and that was interesting. So I'd like to see more of that since she was one of the first people to be like, something's not right about this girl.
Yeah, why are you trying to see Ryan? Like where, you know, she was part of that at the beginning. So that was interesting. And she also had Esme's number like really fast. So
and Ryan,
that was interesting.
Her last scene with Ryan, he threatened her too. So right. I let Harmony live. Let her make a plan to plead insanity or like whatever it is that she needs to do. She can go in coma, but just let her live.
Yeah, I mean, she's not irredeemable. I mean, Ava and Sunny are still chilling. And poor Charles, free as bird. So
is Nina.
That? Yeah, Nina.
Well,
Nina.
It can happen.
I mean, obviously, I am Harmony Hive, aka Lorraine Gang, aka Inga's Angels. We're out here.
Inga.
You guys had all kinds of names for her.
But like, I would say that I also agree that she's not a villain. I do think that it is interesting and like very notable that Carly was like, she had a breakdown. She had a mental break. Like that, I think is very notable. And I also think that like what makes Harmony and what I think makes her compelling for a bunch of people is that you can follow her arc.
Yes.
Like there is not anything that she's done that you don't understand why she's done. It's not even excusing. So like nobody's excusing the shit with Shiloh, right? But like she made amends for that. She was like, or she's been attempting to make amends for that. The stuff like I heard somebody bringing up her working with Cyrus. She was working with Cyrus to like protect Willow in the same way Jordan was working with Cyrus to protect TJ. So I don't consider that to be whatever. And then I wonder, I mean, you know, GH is not nuanced like this, but like I wonder if we're gonna talk about the actual kind of break in trust with the therapist. Like that Neil, because I know that Neil has fans. I have never been a fan of Neil, but like what he did was actually really fucked up to her. And I appreciated her yelling and naming that, like, I trusted him, I confided in him, I told him my secrets, and then he did this thing to me. That's a real big rupture from somebody who's always had a problem with trust, than like trusting in someone who's in a position like that to have them back up on it. Now that's just like me as like a former mental health professional saying that. And so I don't know if GH has that range or like even is thinking about it in that way. But for me, like that has been Harmony's arc. Like I have not understood anything she's done. And villains to me don't like struggle the way she did. Like with all the things that she's done, she has struggled with the fallout. She struggled with actually doing it. And so that's why she's been enjoyable for me to watch. Because you've seen, and she's been playing it so well.
And like she didn't she, for the most part, like up until this week, has been like, when people have been like, you did this thing that was wrong, she'd be like, I sure did, I'm sorry. It was like, no excuses here. And it wasn't until she got like really had that confrontation with Alexis that she was like, none of it was my fault. But it was like she had already had her break at that point. Like her break occurred when she killed Bretman. And that was very clear from the writing, and it was very clear from her performances. So, you know, Team Harmony, let her live. I want to see what happens next for her. So I also appreciated how when like Frank Turn, who runs Frank's Twitter account, it's what we call the whatever intern is operating the account and saying wild, untrue things all the time, but he had made a reference to like, will Harmony live? And like all the replies were like, she must live, please let Harmony live. Like people like watching Harmony. People want to see her story unfold. And I am people. I don't know if you know this about me, but I like Harmony.
I'm so glad that she was able to see that. I hope she was able to see that because that's so important.
It's been a lot of there's been a lot of Inga love, a lot of Harmony love. She's definitely seen some of it. And so hopefully there's more in the future. But yeah, that's our week.
The only take I had, because I'm being petty, and I was like, this is the only thing I forgot to say from like, not only that, there was something when Sunny said something like Carly built a bridge with him and Michael during the last time they broke. And I was like, actually, Carly never built that bridge because Michael was beefing with her too. And Sandra, you brought up that was actually Sabrina who built that bridge. So I don't know if that was like a purposeful like rewrite or if it was just like some bullshit. And then to like say that Carly is gonna like continue to like try to create like a divide between him and Michael, Sunny and Michael, was like actually also not true. So I'm wondering,
it was hella petty for him to say that.
It was very petty, like, and what about Jax? Like, it was just, so I'm wondering if we're in rewrite territory or if we're just in messy writing territory.
I feel like they just didn't want to acknowledge Sabrina. And I'll also say that the person who brought that up to me was Britt. So shout out to our friend Britt, because who is actually a Sabrina fan, because I had forgotten that. And so she reminded me actually. Yeah, I feel like it's just like, oh, like let's not bring up this character, but also like just sloppy writing. Surprise.
It's so hard to know if it's sloppy writing or if it's rewriting with GH sometimes.
Or is it like the character being sloppy, which, you know, who's sloppier than Sunny at this point?
Yeah, I believe that Sunny is that sloppy to not even remember and to be very myopic in how he views things. Because he, you know, clearly feels that he is in the right in this whole Nina mess, and he's not.
He's really, really not.
And it's becoming more and more like this it's becoming, I mean, I just don't know how anybody can keep defending him. And like what you laid out in the spoilers seems like it's going to be even worse. Ooh.
Yikes.
Good luck to all involved.
I had one interesting hot take, and I don't know if it's true, but it looked like Chad Duell darkened his hair. Because when he was wearing that whole black outfit, I mean, his hair looked darker, and then he had all black, and I was just like, is this a choice to kind of indicate his change in attitude? Because he started talking about, I mean, it started talking about not just, you know, disowning Sunny, but he wanted to destroy Sunny's business and territory. So he's definitely taking a dark turn. And Willow had to be like, don't become who you hate, you know? So I thought that was pretty interesting. Like, he, you know, I was like, is your hair darker? Because I thought he was like blondish brown, and now he's like really dark. And I was like,
I didn't pay for that, but that's interesting. We also had a Morgan shout out, which I think is also, and then I'll stop talking about Sunny, but I it's like reminding me just about the characters and like history. It should be harder for Sunny to break with Michael in that way because you lost your son before, like you've already lost the son. So like
yeah.
that should be more difficult. And that didn't come up.
He also, when he was talking to Brando, he was like, you know, my two sons.
He was talking about Dante and Michael.
Yeah, but he
but you have
like,
three.
you have three sons. Just because Morgan's dead doesn't mean that you don't have a third son. It didn't sit right with me. But you know what? None of Sunny's story does. So whatever.
Yeah, I have one more point to make. I mean, the fact that he kept telling Nina that he was not going to get in the middle of the custody, and yet he still stayed up in Michael's face trying to be like, you need to work things out with Nina. And they're like, that's clearly not staying out of the custody battle. You're in his face constantly and knowing that he's mad at you, and yet you still want to be up in there and be like, you need to forgive Nina, or you need to work something out with Nina. He shouldn't be shocked at all that Michael's just like, F you, go away.
Nina and Sunny both do that thing. So like Sunny was like went to Willow, and he's like, he thinks I'm trying to go to Willow, and you did.
That's what you were doing.
Or like Nina was like, Michael and Willow did blah 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 blah, and Sasha was like, well, those are my friends. I'm not. She's like, I would never ask you to be in the middle, but you just trash my friends. Yeah. Like they just, I feel bad because like it's part of the characterization, but it's also just like really sloppy writing. Yep. But what can I do? These are the characters that you put in front of me.
All I can do is react to what's on screen. It's not compelling.
I'm really interested in what you're gonna, I know. I'm really interested in how you're going to title this show. Your titles are hella funny. I was like, what's it called? It's going to be like Sasha loves, Sunny hates, or something.
I do have a title in mind. It was originally going to be Supermodel Speedster Slaves, but because I knew it wasn't going to be that, I had to use it in the recap, you know, because that was like top notch.
We'll see what appears on YouTube and beyond, and on audio as well, where you can find it.
Look at you with the plug. Cut that. We can clip that.
I think we have one more thing to talk about, which is Tabiana Appreciation Day.
Oh yeah, thank you. So on Wednesday of this upcoming week, which is, I don't even know the date. This is the 4th.
It's May the 4th.
May the 4th. We're gonna be
May the 4th be with you.
Yes, okay, it is. I will be wearing my sweatshirt anyway. On May 4th, we're gonna
have one shirt.
Oh no, I have several.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, sorry. We are going to be celebrating Tabiana as an actress, as an activist, as all of the things that she is. And so our pin tweet, it is going to remain our pin tweet until that day, until Wednesday. We'll just show you ways to support, so you can change your profile picture. We're going to be having a Spaces that evening, so you like, no matter what time zone you are in, if you look on Twitter Spaces, it will auto like fit to your time zone, so set a reminder. And then we are finding out, shout out to our friend Ashley, who's finding out what Tabiana's favorite charity is, and then we will link that too, so that people can make a donation in her name. She is an environmentalist, so we are trying not to send a whole bunch of stuff in the mail and like cut our carbon footprint down, which is a good reminder to us all. So yeah, join us then. And next week we will have a special guest.
Ooh, mysterious.
So, do y'all have anything else before we go? It's a lot of slander this episode.
I laid it all on the table, all of it.
Same.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed the May sweeps overview, because I learned a lot. As you can tell from both Tanya and my faces as Sandra was reading, we were like, what? All right, y'all. See you next week.
See you next week.
Hey.